So on all the mandolins that you're going to hear, I'm going to use the same pick. I'm going to use this blue chip TAD 52. That is kind of my typical pick that I like to use. And then I'll record everything into this Neumann KM154. The mic placement is a little bit different on each of the mandolins, so I'll try to nail that. For example, like where you put the microphone for an oval hole mandolin is going to be a little different than an F hole mandolin. So I'll just try to capture it as best as I can. Again, it's hard to do this very scientifically, so I won't even really try. But hopefully this will give you a sense of how each of these mandolins sound. Okay, so first up, this is my Heiden F5 mandolin. This is an Engelmann spruce top. It has a lacquer finish, I believe, instead of the more typical varnish that you'd find on some of these nicer F5s. But it's still a very resonant instrument, especially when I play it for a while. This was my main instrument for about 2.5 years, and recently I switched to one with a Adirondack spruce top, which I'll get to in a second. But this is an amazing mandolin, very lucky to have it, and yeah, I love playing this. Warmer sound, perhaps. Engelmann, they typically talk about having kind of a warmer sound or more open sound. Even in a newer instrument, they say an Engelmann will have a more open sound than the other option typically, which is Adirondack spruce, also called red spruce. So this is the warmer of the two types of spruce. But I think that's a little bit of a limiting kind of characteristic. I think the Engelmann maybe is more open, like without having to warm up as much. But when the red spruce instruments warm up, they get very, very open and warm as well. So it's hard to just describe the sound and the feel of an instrument and just warm or not warm, you know. Yeah, I just find this one to be really, really easy to play, especially the low end. I think is really warm and lovely. Okay, next up, this is my Voight F5 mandolin. I got it earlier this year, but it's about 10 years old. Dan Voight out of Nashville built it in 2014. Really nice instrument. This again has the Adirondack or red spruce top. Has, in my opinion, similar tone, but maybe a little bit more clear and more bell-like on the high end. One great thing about this one is that the pickup that was installed in here, it's a K&K twin, and for whatever reason it sounds better than any other pickup that I've tried for a mandolin. It just sounds great. I haven't touched it, I don't want to touch it, it kind of just works. So I use this one for live a lot. It makes going direct into the board really, really easy. It actually sounds pretty natural just on the pickup. Yeah, this is a really, really great instrument. I think the main thing that I hear, that I experience when I play this versus the Heiden, which again is the warmer Engelmann spruce top, that this has a chimier high end. Has a very powerful, this area of the neck is very powerful and clear on this mandolin, which it's pretty good on that, but on this, when I first played this instrument, that's really what drew me to it. While still having a really nice low end. Okay, next up, this is a Kentucky KM150. This is a much less expensive mandolin. The other two are, pretty amazing boutique level instruments, kind of handcrafted by one person. This is an imported mandolin from China, I suppose, and it's great. This is a great instrument. This instrument you can usually find new for about $500, but used you can find them for about $300. That's what I got this one for. I found somebody selling it along with a couple other things, and I was able to kind of make a group deal. And one of the reasons I got it is I wanted to have a good instrument on hand for a student. So if there's a student who needed a good mandolin and they didn't know where to buy one or go try one out, I'd have one on hand that I could sell to them or lend to them. And it's come in handy for that. So this is one of the ones that is for sale. But even though it's a less expensive mandolin, this is a really, really good mandolin. It's solid spruce top. The hardware isn't great on these, but when I got this, one of the reasons that I got it was he had swapped out the hardware. So it has different tuners and it has a much, much better tailpiece. And by better, I don't really mean expensive. I think this tailpiece is probably about $2, maybe $2.50, just kind of a pressed piece of metal, but a lot better than the stock Kentucky tailpieces that they sell that break really easily. This one, kind of a mandolin style, these little hooks, and it's just much more durable metal. That's one of those things that kind of doesn't really make much sense price-wise. I mean, I think if you spend $500 for an instrument, you shouldn't have a tailpiece break on you. But a lot of these, that's a common experience. Anyway, here's what it sounds like. Funny enough, kind of like the Voight, I find this one is it really shines here in the high end. That's a pretty powerful high end, And that's the thing about these mandolins is higher price does sometimes get you more, but it's not that these don't also have something of value to give. It just might not have the complete picture. For example, the Voight compared to this maybe has a slightly sweeter low end. I mean, maybe I prefer it a lot more, actually. It's maybe a little simpler, a little bit clunkier low end to me. I'm not sure if it comes through in the recording. But I can really see some recording situations, especially where this high end would really come in handy. And I always try to think of musical instruments like a producer rather than somebody who just wants the nicest gear. But what are the sounds that are available to me as a musician? And oftentimes cheaper instruments give you a sound that you can't get from nicer instruments. So they have value to even really strong players or studios or producers. That's how I think about this. I think it has a really great sound that's very useful. Yeah, I like this one. This here's a Northfield NFS-F2. So it's kind of their take on an F2, like a Gibson F2 mandolin, but it's quite different. So unlike those old vintage Gibsons, this one is joined up here in the 15th fret, more like an F5 style mandolin. Those old Gibson F4s kind of had more of a violin body size and shape, and they would join the neck further up. It's kind of in between an F4 and an F5, but still very much an oval hole mandolin compared to the other F-hole mandolins. And what that means is it has a deeper, kind of a more guitar-like sound, in my opinion, which is great for Irish music. It's found there. And I think they work really, really well to accompany the voice, the human voice. So songwriters, singers, it's a nice accompanying instrument, unlike, say, an F5, which can just exist a little bit too much in that vocal range or too far above a male vocal range. This, I think, kind of supports the voice more like a guitar. So last up in the mandolins, here's a Gilchrist Model 1. This is a really special instrument. It's made by Steve Gilchrist in Australia, and it's his take on the A juniors, the Gibson A juniors from like the teens and the 20s. So I experienced this one compared to the Northfield. This one is a lot brighter. It sits kind of more in between an F5 and an oval hole mandolin. The other one is, even though it has that modern 4.5 kind of neck joint, it behaves very much like an old Gibson, maybe a little bit more balanced. This one really kind of sings above the band the way that an F5 really can. This one too, I'll say, really benefits from opening up. It's not open right now. I haven't played it in a little while, but when I do play it, this thing really blooms and really kind of turns into a different instrument. It's a really cool instrument. I'm lucky to have it for now. Last but not least, here's my Kentucky KM-Dawg or KH-Dawg Mandola. This is a early Kentucky mandolin. So the other one is more probably from the mid 2000s or so. This one I believe was made in the 1980s, and it was designed with John Monteleone, built by Sumi, who was the original builder at Kentucky, and it was kind of built in collaboration with David Grisman. Hence the KH-Dawg name, Dog meaning David Grisman, of course. And this thing is just really a gem. When I first got it, it needed a bit of work, but basically at the point now where I think I can stop doing work on it and just enjoy it, because it really is such a great instrument. Anyway, that's about it. If you got any thoughts, if you got an instrument that you really particularly liked or one that you didn't like, let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear what you think. Also, if you want to hear a more specific comparison, let me know. Like I said, some of these instruments are for sale. The Northfield's for sale, the Kentucky's for sale. Who knows what else might be for sale. These things come and go. So if there's something that you'd like to hear, a direct comparison, let me know. All right, take care. Peace.